Carafano. Welcome back, James.
Well, we're still low risk. We're 6 feet apart. I'm not touching anything. So here.
But what's your take on why that happened?
Here's where
as an old army guy, nuclear artillery, give us your take.
Here's where we're going to start: is how General Milley got hired as Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff. So the president picks them, but normally what happens is Secretary of Defense does all the interviews and everything, and they say, "Here's who I think you ought to pick," and then normally they say, "Okay, and here's the other guys," or just give people the niceness of having an interview,
a little bit of a choice, right?
So Milley is not the guy they all picked. They picked the other guy. The other guy got a 5-minute interview, and the president said, "Hey, thanks." Milley went in there. It came out an hour later, and Trump was like, "That's my guy.
That's my guy.
We're done." And
I like his style, the cut of his jib.
That with that speech you heard, now you know why, because Milley's a guy who goes out and he does things. He
no nonsense,
and he does things. So here's
because that was a shot across the bow to multiple threat groups. It wasn't just China and information warfare. It was the drug cartels, the terrorists. Why is that happening now?
So here's the reality is in the Jayada South, so this is the headquarters in.
Explain that Joint Task Force, Interagency
Task Force, which is in Key West, which collects all the information on the drug smugglers, and then it ferrets it out to CBP, FBI, Coast Guard, Navy, whatever, foreign countries, and they go out and they do the interdiction. They used to say we could only on a good day interdict half the stuff we see.
Yeah, right.
Because we just don't have the access
so
to
much.
That was 15 years ago. Over the course of the Obama administration, I'm not picking on anybody, but over the course of the Obama administration, that mission dwindled and dwindled and dwindled to now we were picking up in single digits the stuff that was out there.
Wow.
So since the day the president came in office, he's wanted to scratch this issue. Why are the cartels getting a free lunch? And ironically, because the world's actually slightly quieter now. Russia's kind of quiet. Iran's busy.
Busy internally.
Yeah.
Right.
We actually have assets to free up to do this mission. And so now the president has a chance to stick at the cartels, and they're going to do that. Every asset they put out there, they're going to be picking up a drug runner.
You have a military career. You now have been in policy in the Beltway for a long time. You've written speeches at the highest level of the administration. Share with our listeners, Jim, why these things matter. The rhetoric of statecraft isn't just on an auto cue. It's not just a piece of paper. The way a nation talks matters, doesn't it?
Well, I think my shtick is always it's rhetoric and action.
Right.
That's the real mark of statecraft. And the what's key about the president's rhetoric is it's always focused on the most important audience. And today, the most important audience is the American people, having confidence that they have a leader that can lead them through this. And his style is, there's a reason why the nightly briefings have such incredible ratings. And it's not just because they're incredibly informative, they are, but it's because the president engages with Americans at the way everyday Americans, they understand what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And remember you said this during the campaign, people that support him take him seriously, but
yes.
Not literally. The people that hate him, right?
Take him literally and not seriously. Right.
But here's what makes him effective is he also backs it up with action. It doesn't do any good to say, we're going to go after the drug cartels if you're not actually
doing it.
Going to put resources out there. Obama gave this wonderful speech in Cairo. It was magical. Talked about
speech.
We're going to engage with the Muslim world. Everybody remembers it was a magical. Nobody could tell you one word of what he said because nothing happened. And so, glorious words without action are meaningless. And honestly, rough, tumble, plain spoken in your face.
With action to follow it up.
Kicks ass every day of the week.
Let me just share with you, because I don't do this enough and people say they like it. So as far as I'm concerned, of the president's speeches, you can already rank them in terms of historic import in his first administration. God willing, there'll be two. The most important ones, in addition to the last State of the Union, as far as I'm concerned, are the Warsaw speech,
right. Yeah,
number one, which is just about who we are and what we fight for. And then the second most important, or the third, is the Riyadh speech. in which it was tough. 53 Arab Muslim leaders in the room. Right. It was tough love. And with regards to what happened afterwards, and this is exactly what you said, I had an Arab woman come up to me 3 weeks later after he made that speech, and she said to me, that's the speech the Middle East has been waiting for 18 years. Yep. Boom. That's the difference.
Absolutely.
Jim Carafano, Jay Carafano on Twitter, heritage.org, back with our good friend in a moment. We are back with our good friend, Jim Carafano, Vice President of the Heritage Foundation for all things national security. Join the Heritage Foundation, support the Heritage Foundation, check out the Daily Signal. We love the Daily Signal, which is their media platform. You are such a prolific writer. You are constantly looking ahead over the horizon. One of the big questions that we should be grappling with already is what happens after. We will pass through this. We will contain it. The president is right. It will end. You've written a piece, or it's about to come out, on how does all of this affect our allies. Right. Jim Carafano, what does Europe look like after Corona?
But can I tell you my Mike Lindell story?
Yeah.
Which I told you before, actually. Remember when they wanted to boycott Laura Ingraham?
Yes.
And I forget what she said, and she's a good friend. And Mike said, the hell I'm going to pull my advertising for, go to hell, right? So I immediately went out and bought four
pillows. Good for you.
And I call them my Laura Ingraham pillows.
Did you get them a little embossed engraving on it, a little stitching?
No.
That's fabulous. See, that's the attitude I'm calling for, guys. Do what Jim did. Support Mike Lindell. Tell them to go to hell. So Europe after COVID?
Yeah, so I think a lot of interesting. Europe is not going to be the same. And part of the reason for that is different parts of Europe are going to come out of this very, very differently.
Yes.
And we all talk about Italy. We don't talk, for example, about the Netherlands, which said, well, we have a very strong medical system. Let's just run its course. And their course, they're doing terrible. Right. Same thing with Sweden. So different parts of Europe it's going to be a more divided Europe than ever in the sense of what kind of condition they're in coming out of this.
So writing on the wall for the EU?
I think the EU is going to survive, in part because, remember, fundamentally, what is the European Union? It is a trading bloc.
Which started off as a security thing.
But what is Europe going to need more than anything?
Trade.
People are going to have to get back in business. Right. So the first thing they're going to do is they're not going to get rid of their trading bloc, right? Because they're going to have to trade with each other to get back in business. So I think the EU...
Does that mean the UK is in trouble?
No, I think the UK is going to come out of this stronger than ever.
But even though Brexit?
I always said that the UK and the EU are going to be... In the long run, everybody's going to be stronger because the UK, outside of the EU... can get rid of all these regulations. Yeah. They can compete much more aggressively. And then the EU will have to change to keep up with Britain. But the Russians and the Chinese are already licking their chops saying, where can I go in and pick off the weak sisters?
Yeah, where can I peel off people? Yeah.
Where can I go in and say, hey, Italy.
Let me help you.
Yeah. Let me give you a couple of won or whatever the hell they sell there. No, that's South Korea. Whatever. Turn your back on the EU, turn your back on the United States. Now, most Italians right now hate the Chinese. But sure. The Five Star Movement, which is the major, they would cut a deal with the Chinese in a New York minute. So the question will be is, can you vote these yahoos out fast enough before they can do something? But the Chinese and the Russians will be going into Ukraine. There'll be all these kind of the weak sister countries, and they'll be looking to cut deals with wacky administrations. Now, Hungary, right? Which people pick on Hungary, but Hungary's not going to fall for this because Hungary is actually very strong. They have very few cases. Their economy's in very good shape. They've been very tough.
Very tough.
And they're never going to be stupid enough to be bought by the Russians and the Chinese. Yeah. They might do business with the Russians and the Chinese, but they're never going to be owned by them. So
40 years of Soviet occupation
was enough.
gives you a certain prism through which to analyze that.
So we could see some bright stars coming out of Central Europe. We could see some real problem children in Spain and Italy. We'll have to see what happens at France and the UK.
I always have great hope for Poland. Poland is a rock in that region.
So they may hate Donald Trump with a passion, but they're going to need him more than ever.
Yeah, funny how geopolitics trumps emotion. We've been talking to Jim Carafano of the Heritage Foundation. Follow him right now. He's preventing World War III, one tweet at a time. Jay Carafano, and check out and please join the incredible organization that is the Heritage.